In this week's drive, we witness the return of a real-life hero. See a fiery ride to nowhere. Look at some new models from Nissan. And watch a hometown hero come good. All this and more in this week's Drive. To start this week, we look at how the demands of Formula One have changed a fluid that many motorists seldom think about: their engine oil. Unlike the crude stuff that comes out of the ground and is refined into golden honey-like fluid, today's high-performance engines run on man-made, so-called synthetic oil.
There are great demands put on the oil in a Formula One engine, not only in terms of maximum temperature, but also in terms of viscosity. It has to ensure that every part of the engine is well lubricated. Therefore, on the one hand, it is very important that the oil is fluid and offers the least resistance possible, while on the other, every metal part must be well lubricated so that nothing goes wrong.
Castrol is a company with a long history in motorsport, and at their laboratories in England, chemical engineers have made oils designed specifically for use in the BMW V10 engine used by the Williams team. Computer analysis spectrographs show the chemical composition of additives. These additives make sure that the oil doesn't froth when beaten at high revs, continues to lubricate moving parts, and keeps the engine clean by holding dirt and carbon particles in suspension. And nowadays, the chemical engineers work very closely with their counterparts on the racing team.
The difference is that, of course, today's oil is tailor-made. So it is pinpointed the exact viscosity that the BMW engine needs. So we do that by a process of testing, firstly here in the UK, in the Castrol laboratories, and then when we have a product that we believe will work perfectly in the BMW V10, we take that over to Munich, we work together with those engineers and make sure that we have the perfect fit for the engine. So there's a process of development which really will deliver maximum power output particularly, and that is the key difference between where we started 3 years ago and where we are today.
Each version of the oil is first tested under lab conditions of maximum revs, extreme temperature and continual pressure before it gets anywhere near the hand-built BMW engine, reputed to be the most powerful motor currently racing in Formula One. Experience has shown that the right oil can make a real difference.
Grundsätzlich ist das Ziel natürlich,
Basically, the aim is to produce an oil that's as thin as water, but lubricates as well as really thick oil. The thinner that oil is, the less friction there is, the less resistance is created in the engine, and that's something that has led over the years to a bit of extra horsepower. It was especially the case in 1998 and 99, when you could get an extra 5 to 8 horsepower, depending on the oil. That would probably be the same in a road car if you used really thin oil. The only problem with that is that it hurts the bearings, but we don't do 100,000 kilometres, so it's not too bad.
Of course, road cars routinely do that kind of distance, and the oils in everyday vehicles face different challenges. The conditions in which they operate may not be so brutal, but colder starts and much longer drain intervals require different characteristics. Research is ongoing, and newer oils are significantly better than those available just a few years ago.
You can see how important it is to lubricate an engine effectively by the fact that free-flowing synthetic oils can clearly reduce fuel consumption. This applies especially to modern engines and if you do a lot of cold starts. In this respect, synthetic oil is clearly superior to traditional engine oils.
So, despite an often higher price, man-made synthetic oils should reward the driver and pay for themselves both in fuel saving and longer engine life. Some carbon, some hydrogen and hundreds of other elements in microscopic quantities make up the recipe for almost friction-free running from start-up to shutdown, up hills, on the freeway and in the city. Perhaps this makes oil the quiet achiever of the modern motoring world, and a truly refined mixture. Ahead of the United States Grand Prix, one of the users of this research, Williams driver Juan Pablo Montoya, was asked what it would take to outpace Michael Schumacher and the Ferrari team.
I'll be honest with you, I think we've done pretty good this year. They probably did a lot better job at the beginning of the year than us, but probably in the last 7 or 8 races we've done probably as equal, better than them. You know, if you really think about it, I think we're looking pretty good, but you know, anything can happen.
Montoya had some views on the age of the drivers in NASCAR.
NASCAR is the only series that you can be probably 45 or something like that, you know, of the, you know, road racing or oval or anything that you can still race on, if you really think about it. You know, F1, probably the oldest driver is, I don't know, who's the oldest driver? I don't know, 30-something, 35, probably 36. You know, it's the oldest driver in Formula 1. You know, probably in NASCAR, when you're 35, 36, you're not, you know, not old enough to join, really. You know, honestly.
For the record, he turned 28 a week before the race.
You really got to be on it every week, and I think a young guy does a lot better on that than an older guy. You know, he can be on the limit every week. You know, and I think the people that spend a lot of time there, if the car is not 100%, they're gonna, oh, you know, just cruise, take some points, go home. Where a young guy wants to win even if the car is good or bad. That's, you know, that's what you see in Formula 1. You know, you try to make your car as better as you can, but if it's not good, you still gotta drive it, and you still gotta drive the wheels of it.
Doing so didn't help. He finished 6th. After a nightmare race, Montoya cannot now win the title. Even if he scored 10 and Michael none in Japan, Michael would win, having won more races this year. But Kimi can do it. Things are a lot closer in the manufacturer's title. Each manufacturer can score up to 18 points at the last round with a 1-2 result. Ex-Formula 1 driver Alex Zanardi, who lost both legs in a racing crash 2 years ago, is to make a return to competition. The Italian will take part in the final race of the European Touring Car Championship at Monza, driving for BMW. The race will mark the 36-year-old's return to competition for the first time since his September 2001 accident at the Lausitz-Ring in Germany, when his Champ Car single-seater was hit side-on by Alex Tagliani. The Italian had both legs amputated above the knee following the crash. At Monza, Zanardi will be the 3rd driver, alongside regular drivers Fabrizio Giovanardi and Antonio Garcia, in the BMW 320i, with specially adapted controls with the throttle on the steering wheel and the clutch operated on the gear shift. Between practice sessions, Zanardi revealed some of his thoughts in the 2 years since his career-ending crash.
Now that I've come back to a decent lifestyle, I have nothing against going back to drive, but I had to find the right opportunity to do it because I could not be motivated. And this has nothing to do with my legs, but it's simply in my head. It's the fact that I was probably very close to not retire, but slow down anyway, because now I have a son, I have different interests.
The BMW, with most of the driving functions in a video game-style handset on the steering wheel, has provided him with a chance. But did his family have any concerns or reservations when he announced that he was ready to get behind the wheel and start racing all over again?
They may have some, in the sense that for them it's in a very, very small corner of their mind there is a little fear. And it's totally understandable, it's in the human nature, but probably it's not as big as a lot of people believe it is, because, I mean, my wife met me that I was a race car driver, and she's used to it. I mean, and she understands that what happened to me had a great deal of bad luck involved with it, in it. And, I mean, yes, it may happen again, but I mean, the chance is very, very remote.
Zanardi doesn't like the idea that he might be a role model to others who have suffered serious injuries. His caution is not out of any false modesty, but because he feels his sporting status may give the impression that recovery is beyond the reach of ordinary people. Instead, he believes the key to overcoming adversity is perspective.
I think this is a great gift. It's not a particular merit. It's just a gift. That's the way I am. Very optimistic guy, very positive. Give me 50%, it's enough. I consider that to be sure. That had helped me a lot. And the fact that when you have a problem, you still have the capability to look around yourself. You do not shut all the doors and think only about your problem. Okay, you concentrate, you focus on your problem, but nevertheless, you look around and you say, hold on a second, I gotta keep things in perspective, you know, because I'm not the only one in this world having problems, you know, and there's gotta be a way where maybe I cannot eliminate this problem completely, but I can minimize it. And, you know, that's what I've been able to do, minimize it. It affects my life today very, very little. And my life is back where it was in terms of humor daily, or in terms of, you know, the time I spent laughing.
In total, Zanardi completed 20 practice laps at the Monza Formula One circuit. I don't feel like a professional driver, he said after the session, which ended when the car suffered motor problems. I'm racing here, and then that's it. Over in America, and in front of a crowd of nearly 140,000 NASCAR fans, the NBNA 400, race 28 of 36, got underway on a track known as the Monster Mile, the Dover International Speedway in Delaware. Matt Kenseth started on pole in a race which would last for 3 hours and 40 minutes and see 13 lead changes among 7 drivers. The first crash took place just 4 laps into the race. Mike Skinner spun but managed to avoid hitting anything hard, while behind him, Ken Schrader was hit by Todd Bodine before bouncing off the wall and into the front of Skinner. On lap 81, Joe Nemechek had a tyre explode, and that sent him into the outside wall, peeling open the right side of the car, which caught fire as a result of the fuel pump being knocked off. It took workers half an hour to repair the damage done to the wall by Nemechek's car.
Did it ever hit hard? He's knocked the fuel pump off. That's where the fire is coming from.
With 37 laps left, Dale Earnhardt Jr. spun and hit the outside wall on the driver's side of the car. Earnhardt was reported to have been unconscious for a few moments.
Todd Bodine now gets a lap back, being the lucky dog.
Crews tended to him next to his car before he was loaded into an ambulance and taken to hospital for evaluation. Earnhardt's father, a 7-time series champion, was killed in the Daytona 500 in 2001. Ryan Newman battled back from nearly 2 laps down and gambled on fuel. He did the last 106 laps without stopping to get his 7th win this season, benefiting from 2 late caution flags that slowed the field for 12 laps. On old tyres, he held off Jeremy Mayfield, who harassed him for 10 laps until Newman opened up a 5-car-length lead. Until now, Nissan haven't had what they call a full-size sport utility vehicle, and dealers, particularly in the US, have felt this gap at the top of the range. Well, now the Pathfinder Armada has sailed into showrooms from its American factory. It's a big SUV that has enough styling to make it more than a box on wheels, and thorough off-road credentials too. According to the PR hype, the Armada is for the adventuresome family that drives to the Grand Canyon and then rafts down the Colorado. Judging by its size, it looks like it could drive right down to the water's edge and then wade across if you wanted to. Armada uses a 5-speed automatic gearbox and a 5.6-litre V8 engine, giving 230 kilowatts. That's probably blunted a little by the Armada's 2.4-ton weight. Independent rear suspension instead of a solid rear axle improves the handling and steering, but the ride inevitably remains a trade-off between on-road and off, making it feel a little harsh at freeway speeds. It's a 3-row 8-seater with front and side ceiling airbags, anti-lock brakes with brake assist and electronic distribution. It has a tyre pressure monitor, climate control, and even power-adjustable pedals. At home in America, the Armada set sail for under $35,000. In contrast, the Maxima badge has been in the Nissan family since 1980, and the car has a reputation as a sporty sedan able to satisfy the performance-minded and the comfort seeker. Nissan doesn't expect the Maxima to rival heavyweights like Mercedes and BMW. Rather, they see it as an alternative to Toyota's Avalon, Audi's A4 V6, and the bigger Honda. Styling is most politely called dramatic, but it wouldn't be a modern Nissan if it didn't have one weird styling item, and the Maxima doesn't disappoint. A feature called Sky View is standard. It's a narrow glass skylight that runs most of the length of the roof. It doesn't open, so it can't ventilate as a true sunroof would, but neither does it rob headroom. Front and back passengers can slide covers open or closed separately to get the view or close it off. A conventional sliding sunroof is optional. Maxima comes with a 3.5-litre V6 engine delivering 200 kilowatts through either a 4- or 5-speed automatic or a 6-speed manual gearbox. The safety equipment includes front airbags, front seat side impact bags and head-protecting curtain bags front and rear, plus anti-lock brakes with brake force distribution and brake assist. Also now built in the US, Maxima starts at about $27,000. And for more money, you can get softer suspension and higher profile tyres on smaller wheels. Only in America. Riders of the identical bikes in the one-make Boxer series were in the Netherlands, where rain threatened. Austrian Thomas Hinterreiter won at the last round in Spain and was on pole in Holland, but there have been 4 different winners in 5 rounds. Light rain was falling, but everyone started on slicks. Marcus Barth, starting from 4th on the grid, grabbed the lead, followed by championship leader Andy Hoffman, Roberto Panicci and 16-year-old Englishman Barry Burrell, who sensationally leapt into 4th place from 15th on the grid. Hinterreiter lost a string of positions but immediately started clawing them back. Barth was offline and got swamped, dropping back to 6th in the pack, where he was knee-to-knee with South African Lance Isaacs. Isaacs on the yellow bike was riding in the Dutch team as a replacement for injured Robert van der Molen. Isaacs had started 19th and used his World Superbike experience to jump up the order. But into the next turn, Barth and Isaacs touched, and the pint-sized South African is forced off the track and out of the race. But after 6 laps, the leading riders indicated that rain was falling out on the track, and the race was halted to allow them to change to full wet tyres. As a result of the delay, the race would be shortened to just 3 more laps. Sebastian Legrel on bike 45 shows that there's plenty of grip as he wheelies off the line at the restart in pole position, having led at the interruption. He has to concede to Spaniard Fernando Cristobal and is followed by Hinterreiter, Hoffman and American Brian Parriott. But the field is a little thinner. Besides Isaacs, some other riders didn't make it out. Panicci's mechanic fitted the wrong wheel and didn't have time to correct the mistake, while Englishman Richard Cooper's bike was destroyed in pit lane when lady racer Rosanna Scolari crashed into it. On the last lap, Hoffman had moved into 2nd behind Cristobal, but lost it to a determined Legrel who has an eye on the overall championship. He wants to rein in the Swiss rider's lead. Cristobal's lead is untouchable and he wins the 2nd session from Legrel and Hoffman, but on aggregate he places 4th overall. On combined times, Frenchman Legrel records his first win of the season and again shows that there's plenty of grip on the soaking track. He goes to 2nd in the title, just 4 points behind Hoffman, and the next race is at Belgium's Spa-Francorchamps. Speedway returned to one of its spiritual homes for the 8th of 9 rounds with a championship delicately poised. At the start of the evening, any one of 6 riders could claim the title, with Sweden's Tony Rickardsson hoping to secure a record-equalling 6th world crown. But after progressing through the early rounds, the greatest point scorer in modern speedway was boxed against the barriers by Britain's Scott Nicholls and was forced to drop back to fourth. The Swede never recovered. Nicholls took the heat with local Jaroslav Hempel, the newly crowned under-21 world champion, second. Ricardson was eliminated with just 6 championship points, and he faced the reality that a third world title in as many years had all but evaporated. Not that it was much consolation, but Ricardson became the first rider to pass 1,000 career world championship points. His departure left the way open for his rivals, and they took full advantage. In the draw for the final, Poland's Tomasz Golob, winner of 7 Grand Prix here, drew the preferred lane 2. Australia's Jason Crump appeared to have stolen a march on the 31-year-old local star into the first bend, but Golob recovered, took the lead and stormed away to eventual victory. Crump took second place, with Denmark's Nicky Pedersen close behind. The pair happy to settle for second and third places after that, since they have the most to gain from Rickardson's unexpected demise. Golob crossed the line in typical style, the master of the 348-metre oval, and the crowd rose to cheer their hero, who, despite being out of the championship running, proved he can still compete with the elite. Crump gained 20 points on the night, with Pedersen 18, taking them 12 and 11 points respectively ahead of Rickardsson, an all but conclusive gap with just 1 round of the championship to come. The result puts Crump into a 1-point lead in the title. Meanwhile, Golob celebrated his 10th career victory and his 8th on home shale, going 5th in the standings with 100 points. Despite the camaraderie, Crump and Pedersen will end the season at the 9th and final round at Norway's Olympic Stadium, Hamar, in 2 weeks' time. And finally, the boundaries of art, music and motorcycles were blurred in Berlin when 9 Harley-Davidson riders got together to perform an unusual concert. Composed by Sven Aker Johansen, Dieter Schniebel and Simon Stockhausen, the concert included various musical directions, all of which included the distinctive engine note of a Harley. According to Christoph Metziger, curator of Berlin's Academy of Arts, the idea of creating music with Harleys came up one night over a few bottles of wine. But of course. We wanted to work with these bikes and their especially good sound dynamics, so we asked 3 different composers to get to know the bikes, collect details and then work out a sound profile, Metziger said. Maybe not surprisingly, the sound of roaring Harleys is not music to everyone's ears. After several rehearsals in the courtyard of Berlin's main library, authorities refused to let the concert go ahead and threatened organisers with a €50,000 fine. So the concert was performed on top of a multi-storey parking garage in the Spandau district on the outskirts of the city, which just happens to be where rival manufacturer BMW builds their bikes. When they're not performing, the riders turned would-be musicians are engineers, architects and entrepreneurs. However, during the vocal component, some seem to wish that they were someone else. And who's Bob? Harley-Davidson have registered the exhaust note of their bikes as a trademark, so depending upon what the lawyers have to say, the concert may never be heard anywhere else. Whether that's good or bad depends upon your idea of music. So, whether it's a new model, a trip to the beach or a brave return, so you stay on track and up to speed, make sure you catch next week's Drive.